What's going on, everyone? This is Ian with Getting Work. This week is draft week for a lot of people, with the holiday weekend coming right around the corner. NFL football starting next week. I guess it's next week. Wow, so we're coming along pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do today is talk about my top 5 running backs that I personally am going to be targeting throughout my drafts. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit like, subscribe, and drop us a comment and let me know what you think of the content as we keep going. Really helps us a lot. We really appreciate it as well. So, top 5 running backs that I'm targeting. Okay, so first to start off, let's talk about the what and the why. What am I looking for when I'm talking about running backs, and why am I looking for that? 30 years of age has been sort of the end of life as far as NFL running backs, or at least for their peak and prime areas. So it's best, and it's always better to miss out on a guy who had that one extra year. You know, he may be 30 and he's going to still be good for a year, than to draft a guy who, well, he was 29 last year, was good, and you're drafting him in his year 30 where he has fallen off the map. So it's always better to draft that guy one year too early rather than 1 year too late. Another advantage is grabbing a running back a year prior to their breakout means that you're likely getting them at their cheapest point, and that you'll ever get them, to be honest with you, until they fall off, after year 30, basically. And to give you an example of that, guys such as Deebo Samuel, wide receiver Deebo Samuel, and Jamar Chase, both last year were 6th, 7th round picks. You could have gotten them somewhere in that neighborhood. This year, you're gonna have to spend a 1st or 2nd round to get either of those guys. In most drafts. So cost and things like that, it's always better to get a guy just a little bit too soon than definitely when he's already blown up and you're kind of doing the wait and see. Sometimes, unfortunately, wait and see will cost you. So then ADP, average draft position. Of course, we would all like to have Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey and, Dalvin Cook as our top 3 running backs. But unless you're drafting in a league by yourself and you control all the teams, that's probably not going to happen. At least not coming out of the draft. You may be able to trade for them, though. Hang in there. But so really, I try to think of it realistically. Could I get these guys? Could I get multiple of these players that I'm looking for? That type of thing. So that's one thing that's always kind of playing in my head. How can I put together a good, strong running back roster? So that's where I'm thinking. So average draft position is going to be very key in this as well. And then, of course, the most obvious one, right? Real path to opportunity. How much is that guy going to play? What is, how many touches is he going to get between carries and receptions? What's the best chance to put up those big numbers? Jonathan Taylor is a perfect example last season. So he had Carson Wentz as his quarterback. And the moment that Indy basically figured out that Carson Wentz couldn't throw anymore and he wasn't able to win games with his arm, they loaded up the touches for Jonathan Taylor and he became the number 1 running back last year. So things like that, it's hard to predict, but that's the type of thing that I'm kind of always trying to look for as far as running backs. So, what we're here for. My number 5 running back is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the oldest of the group that I'm going to talk about today, and he is all of age 25, so he's not very old at all. But honestly, perhaps outside of maybe Derrick Henry and possibly Najee Harris, I would say there's not another running back who has a clearer path than this guy right here as far as Saquon's. The roster is devoid of real touch-eating talent in the running back spot especially. Don't believe me? It'd take a minute. Go check out the New York Giants depth chart at running back, and you'll find the likes of Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, and possibly I think Antonio Williams is still there. I don't believe he's gotten cut yet. But that's what's out there. So despite it seeming as if he's been around for a while, he's still only 25 years old. The Giants' O-line is a lot better. It's been horrid the last several years, and it seems to be heading in the right direction. A lot of draft capital has been put into it. You can see the work. New coaches. Biggest thing is new coaches, new schemes, things like that. Their offense can only go up as well. So they were last. They had 24 touchdowns all of last year. Just to give you an idea, Dallas, who was number 1, ended up with 60 plus. So I think it was 63, if I remember correctly. So they can only go up from here. 24 touchdowns. Even if they got to average, they would double their touchdown output. And if they're able to do that, that's likely a lot to do with Barkley. Biggest thing as far as the danger, the red flag with him, injuries. It's always about the injuries. The offensive line used to be the red flag. I think that's heading in the right direction, like I said. But injuries could play a key part. You do have to draft him, though. His ADP has just risen the entire preseason, rather. And he is now going in late first, maybe early second. I was personally hoping he would slide and keep going in the second, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So you're going to have to put some draft capital on him. He's the one guy in here that's going to be one of those top round 1-2 pick. But you can do a lot worse than a lot of guys than Saquon Barkley. Barkley has a ton of upside. Speaking of upside, these next two guys, that's going to be the theme of the day. Breece Hall. So I'm going to go Breece Hall with my number 4 running back that I'm targeting. And you just take a look at his college stats, how he leaps off the screen with his raw ability and when the ball is in his hands. Tons of talent, good size, speed, etc. And now this is a team with the Jets that's unsettled at quarterback almost always, but specifically this year, and meaning there's a real chance that they will have to rely on the running game. So as the passing game sort of gets caught up, that type of thing. The Jets also used a high draft pick on him. Teams don't usually use high draft picks and then not want to play the player. So he's got a very high draft pick. He was second round this year. Didn't pick him to sit on the bench. Now, as a rookie, he has struggled a bit this preseason. It's been a mixed bag as far as hitting the right hole, pass protection, that type of thing. But one of the biggest red flags he may have will be in the form of Michael Carter Jr., who is another young, talented running back that the Jets have on their roster. They could eat into each other's carries. But I will say, it's not about how we always got to remember, it's not about how you start, but it's how you finish as far as fantasy football. This is going to be, I think, very key for Breece Hall. He's going to be, I think he could start slowly. I think him and Michael Carter could go back and forth. They may be 50-50. Quite frankly, he may be in the 45-55 range with Carter early in the season. But he is immensely talented. And because of that, I think you should definitely be targeting him. Again, he's kind of going around late third, early fourth, just depending on your league. So very attainable to have him and Barkley to lead off things. Next, Travis Etienne, my number 3 running back that I am targeting. Some of the things that I said about Hall could apply for Etienne for sure. And in fact, there's a lot of things that almost are completely interchangeable. Now, he's not a rookie. This is going to be his first season playing. He was a rookie last year. He sat out all year with an injury. But he was he was a first-round pick for the Jaguars last season. So he's been around the organization. It's a new coaching staff and things like that. So he has a lot of new people around him. But he also has been in the league for 1 year so far. The main difference between Hall and Etienne, though, whereas Hall has from day one a battle for playing time, I believe it's sort of could be the opposite way when it comes to Etienne. I believe so. James Robinson, who's probably the most accomplished back of anybody that we're discussing, within Etienne and Breece Hall, but between those two, James Robinson is a very good running back, but he had a serious knee injury at the end of last season, so he's still kind of ramping up. Early on, Etienne has a real opportunity to grab a hold of this job and not let it go. I think it's going to end up by the end of the season. It could be a 55-45, maybe 60-40 split with Etienne being in the 55-60 range. But he has the opportunity to have even more than that. And again, this is a young running back, and his ADP is right now mid to late 4th round. So again, you could, depending on, kind of how it breaks, have Hall and Etienne and Barkley, depending on what your draft strategy is. So number 2, this is the guy that's on everybody's lips these days. Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce has just exploded out of nowhere. You want to talk about a guy, one of the things that I said was a path to opportunity. No player on this list has a better path to opportunity. Maybe Barkley. Barkley might be the only exception. But there is a clear path to opportunity as far as Dameon Pierce. He has nothing around him to really compete as far as competition. Opportunity glows beyond bright, though, for him. And if by the end of the season, he was top 5 in carries. Honestly, I wouldn't be all that shocked. Are the Texans a juggernaut offense? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. And when it comes to teams that aren't projected to be good, though, there are usually at least 1 or 2 players that have really high upside, are fantasy relevant, that type of thing, simply due to the fact that they're the only talent, especially when it comes to running back. Wide receiver can get a little tricky because there's so many things that has to get line up for them. But running back, if their offensive line is pretty good, they tend to be pretty good. So he'll get it. So he will get his touches, he'll get his yards, and hopefully he gets his touchdowns. Huge opportunity. Pierce honestly could have been number 1. He's also getting drafted the latest of anyone in this list. So he's around round 8 right now, but honestly, he's rising very quickly, especially if your draft is this week or maybe this weekend. You may want to start looking at him around round or so early. Again, know your league, know your team, you're the other people in the league, kind of how they draft, that type of thing. Look at what they're missing at that point. And finally, the number 1 running back that I am targeting is Rhamondre Stevenson. And I have to start off by saying that he reminds me, not fully, but there's just some parts that he reminds me of Steven Jackson, who was a stud running back if you played fantasy football for any length of time. He was an absolute stud running back. He hit all the marks. So this is back in the early 2000s. He played for the Rams, and he could catch. He had 92 catches, I think, one season as a running back. So, I mean, he was 92 receptions is an insane number. Stevenson has some earmarks of that. He's not quite the receiver. Steven Jackson was an elite running back that could catch. Elite. He had that elite skill. But as far as size, speed, able to handle the goal line, can catch the ball. His hands aren't bad, especially for the size that he is. He's a bigger, strong running back. He's got that run you over power, footwork to make you miss, and again, hands as a deadly receiver. Anytime you get that combination, that's always such a key when it comes to fantasy football. Last season, it was Stevenson who was the main workhorse as far as that backfield goes. Clearly the talent when it came to that. He shows that rare combination of size and still being able to catch the ball while providing all those receptions and that type of thing. And that's why he's my number 1 running back. He's also not a liability on third down, which again, and he's got the size to handle the goal line duty. So receptions, goal line duties. As far as running backs go, if you're getting those 2 things, you're probably going to be really good. Yes, Dameon Harrison is in the mix. I would be remiss not to say anything about him. Dameon Harrison is in the mix. He may even technically, by the time everything starts, be the starter. I don't think that's going to last very long. Stevenson is the talent. He's clearly the guy. And quite frankly, Dameon Harris being around isn't a bad thing. It'll keep Stevenson fresh. It'll be able to mean he's there for the 4th quarter. He's also there at the end of the season. And that's really where you want it. Again, it's not how you start. It's how you finish. So as the season winds down, that is where I see things breaking out. Those are my targets. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did I miss anybody? Let me know who yours are as well. Anyhow, this is Ian with Getting Work, signing off. Later, fans.